Welcome everyone. My name is Dr. IDARA A.OKON, and we will be looking at an important system in the body, the cardiovascular system. Now, like we all know that in physiology, we look at various systems and how they function in the body. So the cardiovascular system is one unique system that helps the body to function properly. So in today's lectures, we are going to look at the properties and the functions of the cardiovascular system. So as our learning outcome in today's class, at the end of the class, we will understand what the cardiovascular system means, what it entails, and then we'll understand the different properties of the cardiovascular system, as well as understanding the functions of the cardiovascular system. As introduction, cardio means heart and vascular means blood vessels. So we can say that the cardiovascular system is a system that comprises of the heart and the blood vessels. So the heart pumps blood while the blood vessels helps in blood circulation. In other words, the blood vessels help in circulating this blood that is pumped from the heart to different parts of the body. And this blood can either be oxygenated blood, that is the blood that contains high level of oxygen, or it can be deoxygenated blood, which means the blood that has low level of oxygen. Now, the cardiovascular system plays an important role in sending deoxygenated blood to the lungs for oxygenation, and also helps in transporting oxygenated blood along with digestive nutrients to the body. Now, apart from that, the cardiovascular system also plays an important role in circulating waste products to certain organ system and then remove these waste products from the body. All right, so this organ you are seeing here represents the heart. Actually, since the day you were born, this is how your heart works. It keeps beating like this, and if you're at rest, at least 72 times in a minute. This is the number of times your heart beats. And then as your heart is beating, it's either ejecting blood to the lungs for oxygenation or ejecting oxygenated blood to the body to make use of the oxygenated blood, having in mind that it is the oxygenated blood that your body needs to function maximally, while the deoxygenated blood will have to be transported to the lungs and then you breathe it out. All right, so this is how your heart beats in every minute, and this actually makes up of the cardiac cycle, which we are going to be looking at in the course of our lectures. All right, so this is the structure of the heart that has to do with different structures: the coronary circulation, the aorta, the pulmonary artery, the inferior and the superior vena cava, and all that makes up the heart as a unique organ. So let's look at the properties of the cardiovascular system. Now, these properties are what actually make the cardiovascular system a unique system apart from every other system in the body. All right, so one important property of the cardiovascular system is that this system has two pressure beds. So the cardiovascular system is a two pressure bed system. And what are these pressure beds? We have the high pressure bed as well as the low pressure bed. The high pressure bed can also be called systemic circulation, while the low pressure bed can be called pulmonary circulation. Remember, I've already mentioned that either the heart will pump blood to the lungs for oxygenation, or it will pump blood to the system for the cells to make use of the oxygenated blood. So the one that has to do with the heart pumping blood to the lungs for oxygenation is the pulmonary circulation, while systemic circulation entails the oxygenated blood that is ejected from the left ventricle to the system. All right, we'll look at that in detail as we get along in our class. So the next unique property of the cardiovascular system is that this system is a closed circuit system and not an open-ended system. Now, unlike the respiratory system, that the nostrils is open to the environment, or the gastrointestinal system, that the oral cavity or the anus is open to the environment, the cardiovascular system is not open to an environment. So it is a closed circuit system. Now, anything that can make the cardiovascular system an open-ended system, there is a problem, and that could be injury. Yeah. So the cardiovascular system is a closed circuit system, and that is one unique property of this system. Now, the next property of the cardiovascular system is that flow is pulsatile from the heart and is continuous in the blood vessel. What do you mean by pulsatile? You can feel the flow of blood as the blood is moving. Now, I usually tell my student in class, if you put your heart in the left part of your chest, under your breast, you will see that something is beating. That is the heart that is beating. So you can feel the pulse of blood flow from the heart down to the blood vessel. So flow of blood in the cardiovascular system is pulsatile. Now, the next important property of the cardiovascular system is that this system, most organs in the system are connected in parallel and not in series. Most organs in the cardiovascular systems that are connected in parallel and not in series. Now, when you were doing physics, well, probably in high school or secondary school, you differentiate between series connection and parallel connection. Now, in cardiovascular system, most organs are connected in parallel. Now, the reason for this parallel connection is that when blood leaves the heart, there can be adequate supply of oxygenated blood, nutrients, hormones, or every other thing that is carried by the blood to different parts of the body. So parallel connection of organs in the cardiovascular system is very, very important, and that also makes a unique property of the cardiovascular system. Now, very, very important. In the cardiovascular system, flow of blood is unidirectional. This is another important property of the cardiovascular system. What we mean by unidirectional flow of blood is a one direction flow. That means when blood leaves the heart and then moves in a unidirectional pattern. In other words, moves in a one directional pattern. Now, anything that can alter this unidirectional blood flow, that means there is a problem. In some cases where you have atherosclerotic plaque or deposition of fat plaque in the lumen of the blood vessel, you will agree with me that this one-way directional blood flow will be impeded. However, in the heart, we have heart valves, so that when blood enters the heart, this blood can leave a particular chamber of the heart and get into the next chamber of heart, and then the one-way or unidirectional blood flow will be enhanced. So what actually helps the unidirectional blood flow in the cardiovascular system is the presence of heart valves. And we are going to look at these heart valves probably in our next lecture, where we have different heart valves in different parts of the heart. Now, another unique property of this system is that cardiovascular system is an elastic system, not a rigid system. Now, elastic system in such a way that the cardiovascular system can expand and return back to its size. Yeah, the heart can expand, eject blood, and then return back to its size. Even the blood vessel. Yeah, the blood vessel can stretch, accommodate blood, and then return back to its original size. So, elastic system is what we observe in the cardiovascular system. So we can say that this system is an elastic system, is not a rigid system. Another unique property of the cardiovascular system is that the heart is filled passively rather than by acting sucking of blood into the heart. So blood that fills the heart, either from superior vena cava or inferior vena cava, fills the heart passively and not by active sucking of blood into the heart. Now, this system is filled with liquid at a positive mean pressure. The cardiovascular system is filled with liquid at a positive mean pressure. You may ask, what is this liquid? The liquid is blood. So it is filled with blood at a positive mean pressure. And then, very important, vascular resistance is the major determinant of flow, right? Anything that resists the blood vessel, it will determine the flow of blood. That we are going to look at in details when we look at conditions like hypertension or anything that can resist the flow of blood. You agree with me that it will determine how the blood vessel is resisted or how the blood vessel is dilated or constricted, as the case may be. All right, so having known the properties of the cardiovascular system, what then are the functions of this cardiovascular system? So the major function of the cardiovascular system is transportation. The cardiovascular system functions by transporting oxygenated blood from the heart to different cells in the body, or we can say to different tissues in the body. The tissues comprises of the cells, so the cells in the body make use of this oxygenated blood for cellular metabolism. Remember, the mitochondria in every cell will have to make use of oxygen to generate ATP that gives us energy, apart from other cellular metabolic activities that occur in the cell. So the cardiovascular system transport this oxygenated blood to every part of the body for the body to function maximally. Apart from that, it also helps in transporting carbon dioxide from the site of production to the lungs, where it is expired or where it is breathed out. So at the end of metabolism, carbon dioxide generated is taken back to the lungs via the cardiovascular system. Now, another important function of the cardiovascular system is that the system transports nutrients, and these nutrients include glucose, vitamins, amino acids, as well as minerals. So these nutrients, they get dissolved in blood, and then the cardiovascular system carry this nutrient to every part of the body and to every cells of the body to make use of it. Very important, like I mentioned earlier, the cardiovascular system transports waste products of metabolism from the site of production to where it should be excreted, and also help in transporting hormones from the site of production to target organs. So you agree with me that apart from oxygen, the cardiovascular system transport nutrients, transport hormones, right? Transport waste products. Now, another function is that they also transport and distribute heat in the body, and then transport immune proteins for what? For protection, and then transport drugs and other foreign substances. So the major function of the cardiovascular system is transportation. And when this system stops functioning, all of these function will be impeded. So that tells us how important the cardiovascular system is, knowing that without oxygen, your body cannot survive. So if the cardiovascular system is not functioning maximally to deliver oxygen, deliver nutrients, deliver hormones to every part of the body will not function. So in our next class, we are going to look at the structure of this heart. What are the chambers of the heart, and what makes up the heart, and how does the heart function in line with the blood vessel, as we get on in our class. So see you in our next class. Thank you.